Today, we are talking about pulling off the blinders and rechecking what are things that I might not be able to see right now that are affecting the direction of my business. And how do I dismantle the illusions that are on subconsciously so that I can continue to take steps towards what is truly aligned? Because when we do that, on the other side of that, there's more abundance, there's more impact, there's so much more energy and flow in our lives. But what I find is often we think that we might be aligned, but it's worth it to kind of double check and see, actually, am I just thinking this and I don't see that there's this other path just to the right of me that is even easier and more of a fit for not only what I'm doing, but the greater expansive future that is a potential for me. Welcome to Confessions of a Spiritual Entrepreneur. I'm Samantha Fackler, your host, business mentor, brand strategist, and someone who believes that building a business is one of the most spiritual journeys you can take. I am here to help you grow your business through proven strategies and aligned practices, so ultimately you can make more money while being in a state of ease. I have worked with over 100 companies and almost 14 years in the brand and marketing space. I've worked with brands that you, your mom, and your grandma know, but I am also spiritual. I love astrology, I keep crystals in my desk, and I'm a Reiki master. So I bring an extra little flavor to this conversation. Let's get into it. So kind of a little backstory here is that I recently went to Joshua Tree and I took a moment to just kind of get out of Dodge and recheck myself. I did a 1-day Vipassana silent meditation retreat. I spent about 6 hours sitting in silence. And at the time, I was really busy in my business. I was gearing up for the brand edit launch. I had so many different special projects happening at the time. I had clients. I was doing speaking engagements on podcasts. And I needed to slow down. I needed to just have a break. I felt like my nervous system was really activated. My husband and I were trying to get pregnant, and I felt this pressure to also be this perfect physical being who's eating anti-inflammatory stuff and drinking water and doing strength training and, living this non-tox or low tox life. And I just felt like I hit my limit. Right. And I was just like, I need a break. There was this meditation retreat that popped up. I said, I'm going to go there. I'm going to make it a weekend. See you Monday. And I'm very grateful that my husband was like, go for it. I got the dog and we have a pretty easy life. So I could do that. I could take that trip. And going there and removing myself from my day to day, immediately I felt more calm. Immediately I started to see like, wow, I've been having these fears in the back of my mind that aren't even valid. And yet they've been kind of running the show and influencing the decisions that I'm making. Fears around, am I making enough money? Even though I am making enough money. But sometimes the world shows me beautiful, really expensive furniture and gorgeous trips I want to take. And then I think, ooh, I'm not making enough money because I want to do these things. Or we're going to be having kids. I need to be making however much more to have their college savings before they're 2, right? Sometimes our brains we don't even realize these insane narratives that are happening in our sweet little heads. And I kept pulling this oracle card around this time that was dismantle illusions. And I love oracle cards because they can provide just little reminders that we don't think about, a little reality check. And what do you know? I went to this hotel called Reset Hotel in Joshua Tree. And there was one morning I was up to see the sunrise and 2 coyotes ran past me. And the dismantle your illusions card was a coyote card. There's a coyote on that. So it reminded me in that moment, what illusions have I been operating from? And there were many. One had to do with friendship. There was like a good friend of mine that I just felt so distant from. And I thought, is she mad at me? Is she judging me for being a business owner or showing up on Instagram? Or I made up all of these illusions that weren't true. And when I sat in meditation with that, I realized I actually just missed my friend. I missed hanging out with her. And when I got back from the trip, I, had a conversation with her, and I realized that all those fears and judgments that I had weren't true. My fears were using her as a token to then reflect back my fears, if that makes sense. And there were other illusions even with my business. I mean, there was part of me that was thinking about taking on other corporate advisory contracts simply out of fear that what if all my clients disappear? What if all my stuff fails? And I think these are really natural fears that we have, but I had to sit with those and realize that they were even present in my field, right? Like they were somewhere in my brain or whizzing around my body. And once I realized that those were present, I could face those head on, and I could remind myself, actually, you're okay. You have clients. You have clients that have signed with you who haven't even started working with you. You have opportunities coming in already for next year. Like, you're a busy woman. You have launches planned. And then I also like to visit, okay, well, what if the worst case happened? What would I do? And when I started to play with this in the meditation, I realized that those fears started to actually get dismantled. Those illusions began to dismantle, because if worst case happened and I had no clients, no programs, I would figure it out, just like I did when I started my business. And I would figure it out way faster because I've been in business for 3+ years now. And I've learned a lot in that lifetime. I think the biggest illusion, though, that I noticed was I have this branded marketing background. That's, it's so present, and I'm so steeped in it that I feel like I can do branded marketing work in my sleep. And a lot of my brand is built on this. I've talked about brand strategy and marketing tactics. And the thread of truth is that I love helping women grow their businesses. And branded marketing is a massive part of growth. Marketing is how you grow an audience and sell your products to that audience. But there is another thread of truth that I've been ignoring out of fear. And so going on this trip and getting out of Dodge, so to speak, I was able to actually look at that and realize I actually want to start talking about some of these kind of inner work type things like I'm talking about now, because they're really important to me and to listeners, to you, to my clients. Because what I also see is that sometimes someone will come to me with a challenge in their business or challenge as a business owner. And underneath that challenge is an inner work thing. For example, someone comes to me, they're having a challenge with a team member. That team member has been with them for a long time. They value them. The team member knows their business inside and out. And yet something's been coming up between them. Typically, when this situation happens and we look under the hood, it's very much like a life test for that person. Like that team member is actually bringing a lesson to them. Can they learn it? And then through that lesson, once they get to the other side, it becomes very clear their decision around, either keeping that person or letting them go. And it's never black and white. It's always very complex to navigate. But there are so many deep inner lessons in these challenges. And so one of the biggest insights I had after this Joshua Tree trip, with the intention to dismantle the illusions that I was running with, I realized that these topics are really important and it's time to start talking about them more. And my background as a Reiki energy healer needs to come into the podcast a little bit more. And I have been afraid to do that for many different reasons. I think one, there's a lot of the world that likes to have a stigma around woo woo things. And I don't like the term woo woo because I think there's a practical way of viewing woo woo stuff. But sometimes the way that woo woo stuff is packaged in feathers and spiritual clothes and patterns and colors doesn't resonate with me. And it doesn't resonate with a lot of people. And I wish that some of the truths in the spiritual world, like what we're talking about now, dismantling your illusions, looking at the fears, moving through those, I want to be able to translate those for an audience that might not be into the woo-woo culture. I want to separate things out, so to speak. So this was a huge truth to stumble upon. And I think it's a practice that every business owner can use, because how do you realize what fears might be influencing your decisions without you physically presently feeling fear? Because these fears can be lingering. They're little lurkers in the back of our head. It's like when we're stalking someone's social media and they have no idea who we are. Those are the fears that I'm talking about. The ones who are monitoring our every move and silently judging or criticizing, and thus then steering our direction without us ever having to know what they are. I know this is like a complex thing to think about, but it's so, so valuable. And you don't need to go off to Joshua Tree for a weekend to look at this stuff. I think if anything, if there's a takeaway from this, it's just go sit with yourself in silence for 10 minutes and either journal or just think about it or walk around, whatever kind of somatic practice feels really right to you. And ask yourself, what fears might be running my business right now? How are they influencing what I do? And what would happen if I released fear from my business? What would happen if I released fear from my business? Okay, I will let you sit with that. It's a big one. Give it some time, let it marinate. And I'm really excited to hear any takeaways or breakthroughs from this. I know this was a massive moment for me in my business, and I'm really excited for the direction things are going to go. And I also know that the work's not over. I will have to continue to check in. I will have to meet that line of fear that's really hard and continue to step over it and see, okay, there's a more aligned path here that I'm stepping into. How do I do that? How do I do that in my own way? All right. Please let me know your takeaways. I would love to hear them. You can message me on Instagram at samantha.fackler, or if you are in my free community for women headquarters, definitely join the conversation there. Drop what you've learned from this. And with that, I will catch you next time.